Hello Booktube, I'm Scott.
I'm now.
We are Gunpowder, Fiction and Plot, and today we're going to discuss our reading goals for 2021. So I've been, in 2020, I had a lot of goals that were like, read from a new country every month, read this every month. And I haven't liked this every month.
It's not worked for you on a monthly basis.
It's not worked on a monthly basis. So what I'm doing is I'm making year-long goals that I just have to achieve by the end of the year. So I can fall behind, I can get ahead, I can smash them early, I can catch them all up in December.
Get distracted by readathons.
And the other thing I'm doing is that these are goals, these are not obligations.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, the last book I would read for the month would achieve the last goal that I needed.
Yeah.
And that hasn't worked for me. What about you?
I have lots of goals, but they're mostly around behaviours. For me, a lot of this is about the reason I booktube, the reason I count the books I read, all of those things is to try and re-establish more time in my life for reading. And I think I've been partially successful in 2020. And so a lot of my goals in 2021 are about extending that success and making it a bigger part of my life. More play, less work.
Yeah. All right. So, let's get on with the actual goals, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So the first goal, the sort of the big one that everybody has, is how many books do you want to read for the year? Do you have a number?
I want to read one more than I read in 2020. So
what are you up to at the moment? You're in your 40s at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I just finished 42. And we have a buddy read that I think brings me to 43 coming up. Because I will finish that. And if I can squeeze in, I suspect I'll get to 44 by the end of the year.
So your goal is going to be 45.
So, assuming I get to 44 in 2020, then 45 will be my goal for 2021.
All right. Now, my goal is ridiculous. It's 200.
Of course it is.
So I've read, at the moment, 150 books.
Mm-hmm.
I will be finishing at least 2 more by the end of the year. Probably 3 more, I think, is what I will get done. Maybe 4 if I'm lucky. Anyway, but I think that I actually have really sped up my reading in the last 6 months.
Yeah, you're getting even more prolific than you have been in previous years.
Yeah, the last few years I also read 150 books, but I was so far behind the 150 book target at halfway. I was about 20 books behind where I needed to be, and I achieved that. So I think let's up the goal to 200. But the other thing I want to say is...
That's jealousy on my face.
Yeah. Sorry. I really want to stress that this is a goal. I'm not going to... The reason I had quite a low goal this year, and the reason was I was reading short books to achieve my reading goals before.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is you've had to readjust it. You've readjusted how important goals are versus your enjoyment of the reading activity.
Yeah, and I can still have these goals.
But they're secondary.
They're secondary, and I'm reinforcing that they're secondary and I don't need to achieve them. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got all these numbers here that I want to achieve. So I've got a number of books I want to reread, for example. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list of a lot of these things at the start of the year.
So rather than saying, I want to reread 10 books, you're going to have a list of 10 books.
A list, and I'm going to tick them off and cross them off. And I've counted here, there's something like 120 books that I'm going to have to write down.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And the odds are, I'm probably not going to do all of that, and as the year progresses...
You'll add different books.
There'll be readathons, somebody will recommend a book, you know.
That easy distraction that happens because we are part of the booktube community.
Yeah. And there's going to be books that I want to read that don't fall into these categories that I have to figure out. But yeah, I'm just going to have these lists, and it's just like a bit of a game. It's a cross off.
Yeah, got to catch them all.
Got to catch them all game. And so if I achieve 200, great. I'll probably get close to finishing these lists. If I read more, that's all right. A lot of these goals are about diversity, is what I'm actually trying to say. So rather than, I was like, what percentage of people of colour should I be reading? And I just don't have any way of answering that.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to reread 10 books.
Yeah.
Right? I've got a list of 10 books that I'm going to reread, and that'll be another video maybe. We've been reading authors from different countries. So if we haven't read a book by an author from a country, so for example in January we're doing the Invisible Cities Readathon, and I've not read an author from Morocco, and they're doing Moroccan literature as one of the 3 categories. So Morocco is a great chance to knock off my first one there, but 12 new countries, so I'll read a Moroccan book in January. I won't actually do a list there. That'll just be something I figure out as I'm going along. Of those 12 countries, I want 6 of them to be African. I only did 3 African countries in the 12 this year, and considering I started with so few, I thought that Africa should have got the majority of the lion's share of my new countries, and it didn't. So I'm going to make sure Africa gets 50%. Now, out of 200 books, I've put down 50 persons of colour. It's probably a bit low, I feel. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write this list I'm going to write 50 books.
Yeah, so that doesn't necessarily mean they will be the only people of colour that you read throughout the year.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But they're the minimum.
But they're the minimum. Of those 50 people of colour, I would like 20 to be what I'm going to call like Black African. So of African descent is what I mean by this. So like Caribbean, African American is fine. And I would like to read a couple of Indigenous Australian authors. You just got a terrific sounding book.
I've got The Yield.
The Yield. By Tara June, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
That's probably facing the wrong way because you're saving it for a book haul.
No, by Tara June Winch.
Yes.
Right, but I've also got The Swan Book by Alexis Wright, which is another Indigenous.
Yeah, so I might borrow them.
I've got a couple.
At some point. I've got down 20 queer books. Again, I really just didn't know
the number.
I didn't know the number, but again, I think if I'm writing a list,
yes,
that I will read more than 20.
Yes.
Because I won't put books on that list. Then I want to read the 30 oldest books on my TBR. To get that down. And I want to read the Booker 2021 long list, and I'd also like to read the Booker International long list. So that's a lot. Do you have any goals like that?
I've got a couple of. I want to read the Booker 2021 long list. That's on my radar. I also, when it comes to diversity, if you've been following along, you'll know that I have my diversity buying project for my TBR. I think that's sort of winding up, and it will be more about establishing an ongoing practice. Josh from Josh's Bookish Voyage says he buys 2 out of 3 as diverse.
think having a ratio is good.
Yeah, and I think having a ratio is how I will carry forward that project once the initial project is over. But I also think that it's important for me to measure my reading stats and how the TBR and curating my TBR so carefully, how that is translating into the books I'm actually picking up, and whether that is being effective. So I'm definitely interested in looking at the numbers at the end of 2020 and then probably quarterly throughout the year. So it's not really so much for me about setting a number of books or a percentage of books to read, but more about monitoring what I'm doing as I go forward, I think, and seeing that the purchasing tactic is enough to carry through to my reading. And if that's the case, then I'd prefer to stay with that model because I am a bit of a mood reader.
Yeah. You wanna do as few restrictions on your reading as possible.
Yeah.
And by changing your buying habits, you just want to ensure that that's changed your reading habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's sensible.
I think it's sensible too.
Yeah. Now, there's a few readathons throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
So we are, in January, we will come up to 1 year on BookTube.
Ooh.
So I feel like we've had a chance to, like...
see most of the readathons.
So early on, we're like, oh, I wonder if there's a readathon next month, or, you know.
Yeah.
And so now we sort of know what's going on, although that doesn't mean there won't be a new readathon or something. But I've got down a list of readathons that we liked that we want to redo.
Yeah.
So let's go through them. So the first one is the Invisible Cities readathon, which we're going to do as a year-long readathon.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was the Asian readathon I've got down.
Yeah.
So that was in May.
Yeah, I think that was my favourite one all year.
That was your favourite one all year?
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the better ones. One of the ones we found just so late, and I really wish we knew about it before, and I ended up reading one book, and it was one of the best books I've ever read.
The Caribathon?
The Caribathon, yeah.
Yeah.
But I also DNF'd a book. But I'm really happy if I read a book that is, you know, one of the best books I've ever read to a DNF.
Yeah, that's a good ratio.
I'm happy with that ratio. But yeah, I would like to read more Caribbean authors. Victober was fun. I really enjoyed Victober.
I very tokenistically participated in Victober this year, and I'm hoping that by next year I'm feeling more relaxed about my reading volume. And committing more to readathons because I feel like I can.
A lot of Victorian literature is quite long, and
it's not just that. I often feel like by the time you fulfill a couple of prompts, that's my reading for the month. Like sometimes I don't. Sometimes I only read 2 books in a month because that's all I have time for. I'm hoping that if I have created more space in my life for reading, that won't feel so. Yeah. So much like I have to budget what books I read.
Yeah. And the next one was Jane Austen, July.
I would really like to reread pretty much all of Jane Austen in Jane Austen, July. That's my friggin' mission, to get to the point where I've got enough time set aside that I can do missions like that.
So she's done 6 novels. Have you read all 6 of them?
There's one I haven't read.
Northanger Abbey?
Yeah, that's the one I haven't read.
That's the one I haven't read too. We should buddy read that together.
We should.
In Jane Austen, July.
But I'd like to reread all 6. That's my fantasy goal.
Yeah. I want to reread Jane Austen because I didn't like her until Jane Austen, July, and then I read a book and it changed my mind.
I definitely... I was a different person when I read Jane Austen, and I think that this new Janelle would like to read Jane Austen.
Yeah. Non-fiction November is another one.
That was good. But I want to make a promise to myself that I'm not saving all my non-fiction for non-fiction November next year.
Yes. And I don't want to just read non-fiction in November.
No, that was a dumb idea that you did.
Yeah, I burnt out by, I think, the 21st or the 22nd. I said, nope, I'm going back to fiction. Yeah. And the last one, I feel we're kind of obliged to participate in this one, but I'm actually looking forward to Aussie April.
I'm looking forward to doing an Indigenous focused Aussie April. I think that sounds exciting to me.
I just don't read Aussie books, and I don't know why, but I don't.
And we often get asked about Aussie authors because we are Australian.
Yeah, people assume that we know, and I'm like, well, there's Tim Winton and
Colleen McCulloch.
Didn't we have a Miles Franklin once? So yeah, I will. There's half a dozen books just in my head that I want to read that are written by Aussie authors. And people on BookTube they talk about Aussie books all the time. Well, I hear about them all the time.
I've got to say, I had a few Aussies on my list, on my wish list, which are sitting in a haul pile somewhere, and I didn't know they were Australian. So.
Oh wow!
It was a nice surprise.
Yeah. Well, that's all the readathons. That's all the goals.
That's all your goals.
Oh,
is that all your goals?
Yeah.
Well, I have some behavioural goals that I want to add to my little list. I would like to get to a point where I'm reading 2 hours a day. That's really tough for me. I find that I have a tendency to work too much, and I often get home before Scott, and I continue to work until he gets home, and I would like to make it a habit to pick up a book instead of my laptop. So that's a tough habit for me to create, but I would like to create it by the end of next year. And the other thing I would like to do is I would like to learn to audiobook. I have difficulty absorbing the information through my ear holes, and I would like to figure out how to do that. I have an audiobook that I'm going to try, and if I can't sort of figure out how to do it with that audiobook, I think what I'm going to start to try and do is read and listen at the same time, and see if I can transition from reading and listening at the same time to just listening. Because I do know that if I can audiobook, I will definitely get more books into my life, and that's always a good thing.
Well, you can read on the commute to work, and that's a couple of hours every week, and that'll add up to a book pretty quickly if that's all you audiobook. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the lady who was raped by that douchebag who got off? Is that the book?
Yes.
Yeah, I've just gone blank on her name.
Emily Doe was the name on the
Celine?
No, it's Chantel Miller, I think.
Chantel Miller.
But I can't remember the name of her book.
Know My Name, which is really
because we don't. Because unfortunately I know the name of the perpetrator.
Chanel Miller.
Chanel, not Chantel.
Chanel Miller.
We'll get there.
I did know her name up until I had to remember it.
There was a reason I was being vague about what I was reading. Yes.
Oh, we'll cut it out.
It doesn't matter.
Why were you being vague?
Because I didn't know the name of the goddamn book.
Oh, sorry. Do you have any other goals?
Get a new husband.
Yeah, you're not getting an upgrade. I'm sorry. Have you seen the men out there?
Oh. That was a comment on me. I'm like, I'm worth 50 of you.
No.
Oh no, all the other men are complete shit. I remember. No, I think that might be it. I feel like I had something else, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. Now, do we have any goals for our channel for next year? I'm gonna say.
Go on.
That optimistically, I would like to have 1K subs by the end of the year.
Next year? I think that's possible.
I
don't think that's complete lunacy.
I don't think it's complete lunacy. I think if you look at how our channel has grown, the first 6 months it struggled to
get a view.
And then we got a wonderful shout out by Katie at Books and Things, and that
And then it escalated from there.
that got us
Yeah, I
growing.
think...
And then we've had multiple shout-outs from billions of nice people since.
I think I would like to be a bit more organised and shiny about what we put out. I'd like our videos to look a bit fancier.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to stop swearing.
No.
That's our brand.
Not swearing doesn't mean fancy to me.
Yeah, okay. I would, at some point, I would love to run a readathon or a read-along.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I like keep having ideas and then just don't know how to. Well, rather let a month go by and then go. The alliteration on that idea is gone now.
Funny.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll
get some alliteration happening.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'd like us to be better on Instagram. That's what I would like our channel to be doing.
Shocking on Instagram.
I think we've done about 5 posts this year, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably our channel-wide goals.
Yeah.
So at some point soon, I will actually post probably as a video those books,
your lists
that I plan to reread, the people of colour I plan to read, so on and so forth. One of the things we've discovered this year that I've enjoyed is buddy reads. So when I post those lists, if you want to buddy read any of those books with me,
just shout.
Are you gonna do anything like that, or will you just look at the book and see if you want to buddy read it too?
Yeah. That's how I roll.
That's it. So it'll be a buddy read with me and 50-50 on Nelle.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what we'll do. So tune into those videos. Yeah, because we've had some fantastic buddy reads this year.
Mhm.
All right. That's it. If you got to the end, thank you. Give us a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe.
We'll see you tomorrow because it's Vlogmas.
Bye.
Bye.